the difference between a funnel and a website, what the purpose of them are. If you think of a business like an octopus, then a website and a funnel would only be like two legs of that overall octopus. They are not the octopus themselves. It is just a component of a much bigger picture. And so I'm trying to teach everybody how to think about the big picture so that you understand what you need to build in the, when you zoom in through that lens. If you think that you can get away with having a website or a funnel, that is flawed thinking in your overall business ecosystem. You actually need both. Before people vote with their money, they want to make sure that who they're voting with is a solid option. And here's the reality. There's a lot of options nowadays. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Business Fundamentals. My name is Alyssa Schaefer, and on this channel, we discuss overall online business architecture and design with a focus on improving workflows and processes to improve your business's efficiency and effectiveness. Sometimes a focus on how to do that with AI. But most importantly, I have seen the impact these improvements can have on a business through not only saving resources and time, but most importantly, money. What would you do if your business was given back 5 hours per month per employee? How would you utilize that extra time? So if you want to deep dive into the full background of this channel, I made an individual video about that, but for now, let's get into the good stuff. Why I've also started coining the term of a web bite, because you don't know that your website is actually biting you in the ass. All right, guys, so in this video, we are going to talk about the difference between a funnel and a website and some common misconceptions about what everybody thinks a funnel and a website really are, what the purpose of them are, and even how those two aspects contribute to an overall business. Because I don't think a website is a business. I don't think a funnel is a business. If you think of a business like an octopus, then a website and a funnel would only be like two legs of that overall octopus. They are not the octopus themselves. It is what you need to build and what you're going to use to build that thing, but really why you're building it. Like, what does this thing contribute to the overall picture of your business? So, welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome altogether. So, as I said, on this channel, we talk about how to design the perfect business ecosystem so that you have what you need to perform whatever service your business does. Because it doesn't matter how big or small your business is, or whether you are a nonprofit or a for-profit business, all businesses have the same components. The difference between all those different variables I just mentioned is the scale, right? So one of the biggest things that I noticed through working with hundreds of clients in a multitude of industries is I was working with big businesses, but by the time they got to me, they were already struggling with the fact that when the business was originally designed, it did not take into account what the future was for scaling and continuing to build that business. So what I saw all the time was, okay, like we have a CRM, because I was a Salesforce CRM design specialist, right? I was a senior Salesforce consultant. So I was focused on how to help businesses use Salesforce to improve their businesses. But what I realized is Salesforce, similarly to ClickFunnels or any other software, is just a component in the big picture. It is not the picture itself. And so why I built this channel is I want everyone to be able to think about these things a little bit more accurately. Like Salesforce optimization. Everybody loves to say that term, but what does that really mean? And the same way that we're going to dive in this video, what a website is versus what a funnel is, and what those two individual things do for a business, how they contribute to an actual business. That is the same thing. I would put Salesforce optimization in that same bucket. It is just a component of a much bigger picture. And so I'm trying to teach everybody how to think about the big picture so that you understand what you need to build in the, when you zoom in through that lens. Everybody has kind of a preconceived notion of what a website is. And actually, I'm not trying to put words or thoughts in your head. So a website is a series of web pages that are all hosted by one single domain. A funnel, and this is kind of like what it is, right? Like literally what it is. And a funnel is a series of web pages hosted by a single domain. What does this tell us? That the difference between a website and a funnel is not in the physical version of what they are. So how do these two things differ? The difference between a website and a funnel is the psychological impact. Other difference between the two is the behind the scenes goal. A website is about communicating information, and a funnel is about making money. If somebody wants to find out more about you, they're going to go to your website. If somebody wants to find out how they can work with you, they should go to your funnel. But without knowing the difference between these two things, you can see how people would get totally mixed up and not understand that when you're building these things, you have to keep your end result or your foundational goal in mind. Otherwise, they're not going to work the way that you want them to, which is why I've also started coining the term of a web bite, because you don't know that your website is actually biting you in the ass. Those are kind of the foundational similarities and differences between a website and a funnel, right? Because on the surface, a series of web pages that have one particular goal, on the surface, literally, there aren't very many differences. But when you start adding in the mental and psychological components to them, that's where they really differ. One of the things I want to mention about how this impacts your overall business ecosystem is that if your website and your funnel are not working on the same team, meaning that the way you're thinking about these things aren't meeting in the middle somewhere, then that's where you're going to find what I call gaps. Part of one of the services I provide is a gap assessment, because when you have a situation with a partner or a significant other, who do you go talk to? You go talk to a third-party friend who is not emotionally invested in the situation. They obviously love you and they want you to be happy, but more so you need that third-party perspective that isn't emotionally invested in the outcome, because that's the kind of person that's going to be honest with you. Just chew on it. Just chew on what that third-party opinion can really do for you, if not just point you in the right direction of where somebody is witnessing your gaps. And for you, since it's your baby, nobody wants their baby to be called ugly. Believe me, I was on so many projects where I was completely invested personally in the solution and how that impacted everybody. And so one of the key components to designing anything is to have somebody go test it and basically challenge you on how ugly your baby really is. So that's just a side note that in order to truly determine what your gaps are, it's really easier to work with somebody else. I'm not saying you have to work with me.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
That's why this channel was created, was so that we could chat about the concepts and how you apply the concepts to your business to create what your business requirements are. Because that's what I did, actually. When I was working as a senior Salesforce consultant, all I did was dig out business requirements from people. And I had to do it in meetings where I was stuck in meeting rooms all day long. There is a better way to do this, and that is this method, or at least this is the first step down the better way to do that. I found myself having the same conversation over and over and over again, and I was just like, I don't need to have this conversation individually. I mean, granted, people were paying a lot of money to have me in that room, but I don't need to do this on a one-to-one basis. We can have this conversation more conceptually, where then we dive into your specifics. But by the time we are diving in one-on-one, you already have a real handle on what your ultimate goal is, which is what I spent all my time trying to get to, is trying to get people to understand what their real goal is, which I did through a series of questions. So through this channel, we are going to ask those questions, and everybody can figure out what they need to then bring that to me or somebody like me, so like an architect. You have an idea of what you want your house to be, but then you have to bring those ideas to an architect to put those plans on paper to then give that plan to a contractor so it actually gets built. I think we went off a little in left field in this video, so I may have to change the title of it.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
The biggest flaw in the thinking that a website and a funnel are fundamentally different. One of the biggest flaws in that thought process is that you think you can have one or the other. And that is fundamentally wrong. You need both, because as I've said in this video, there is an underlying goal in a web bite, a website. If yours is a web bite, then we got to work on that. But through this channel, you'll figure it out. So we'll have a video with all the different web pages that you would need to then upgrade from a website or a web bite to a website. But the point being that if you think that you can get away with having a website or a funnel, that is flawed thinking in your overall business ecosystem. You actually need both, because when it comes to marketing nowadays, people want to double, triple, quadruple check and figure out who you are and what you're all about. Whether you're an individual business or you're a big business doing a lot of stuff with a big team, it doesn't matter. Before people vote with their money, they want to make sure that who they're voting with is a solid option. And here's the reality. There's a lot of options nowadays. So it's not as simple as, I found you, so that's the best option. Like on Amazon, if you type in my podcasting microphone, there's a bunch of options on there. There is not just one. And so that's the reality of the business, the playground of business right now, is that it's not really about who gets in front of the client first. It's about who has the best presentation when they get there. So attention really is the hottest commodity nowadays. And if your web bite is biting you in the ass, then you're going to lose attention. And you only have, people have like the attention span of a goldfish nowadays. So if you lose the potential for somebody's attention from the go, the chances of you getting them back is, it's not a 0% chance, but you have to work a lot harder because they weren't interested the first time. How does that translate to this whole concept of what we're talking about of a website versus a funnel? And that is because the background, the why these things exist, what the purpose of what a website does versus what a funnel is doing, is that underlying goal. It kind of translates into how simple or complex those web pages are, because if you think about a website and a funnel, like I said, they are fundamentally the same thing. It's a series of web pages, but with two different goals. A website is for your marketing and your copyright, in you being able to communicate clearly to your audience what you're all about, why you're all about it. Humans are all about community. So why voting for you with their money enhances their life. That's really what marketing is. But, when you contrast that with a funnel, which is a series of web pages, albeit probably on average simpler web pages. They are less colorful. They are simpler because the ultimate goal of that series of web pages is to take a person through a journey. First, you watch this video, then you click this button, then you get to this thing, then you watch that, or whatever your funnel is. But it's a series of individual steps where you do not want someone to get distracted or go off onto another web page. Once you lose somebody's attention, you have to try to get them back into that funnel to go through those steps. So that's another point of contention for concept of a gap analysis is, when it comes to passing the baton from marketing to sales and then the baton from sales to service, is there a gap where some of your potential clients or potential audience are falling through? Which is another thing that we tackle on this channel. With that being said, I think that we have definitively proven beyond any reasonable doubt what the differences and similarities are between a website and a funnel, why your business needs both, and then then we can dive into a series of videos about the different types of funnels and the different pages that you need on your web. We're going to call it a web bite until it's been upgraded to a website by checking all those boxes. So we're going to make more of that. Those videos are going to be linked below, above, everywhere, so that you can really dive into what is missing from what you currently have set up, because that to-do list, that gap is, going to be the difference between you having a flawless business ecosystem that not only your marketing should support your sales and your sales should support your marketing. Like in the video about why I created this channel, I told a funny story about how a finance team hired me to mess with a workflow or process or even just overall design that I had built for the sales team. And in the thick of it, it was a nightmare. But in the grand, later when you look at hindsight is 2020, I was like, it's just such a clear depiction of how things can fall through the cracks when you don't have a seamless process to go from one team to another. And so while I've been using marketing and sales as an example, you also have service, support, and finance that all need to be taken into account when we are talking about your web bite supporting your business, or any funnel that you make also supporting your overall business ecosystem. So, with that being said, I think I've given you guys a lot to think about in this video, but it is attached to other videos where we dive deeper on these concepts a little bit more in depth. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there, and I hope that this has found you and given you more information than you came with. So have a great rest of your day.